Hello, today I'm going to be making the last video in my series of swatching out all my watercolour paints, and I'm going to be focusing on the blacks and greys and my metallic watercolours. As usual, I've got out all of my watercolour paints which fit into these categories, and we'll get on with swatching. So I put my most granulating paints on this top row. And firstly we have Szmal's Aquarius black. And then Daniel Smith's Hematite Genuine. Schmincke's Haze Black. And Schmincke Shire Grey. I think the swatch of this one's missing because my video stopped. They look like little planets. Okay. I'm afraid my video cut off for that last one again. But on this row we've got all of the Payne's greys. So first is Sennelier's. Then Daniel Smith's Payne's grey. And then a Gallo's Payne's grey. Which when you look at them here, the Gallo Payne's grey looks almost more like an indigo. It's much more blue than the other two. Okay, so this line is Sennelier's Neutral Tint. Then it's Derwent's Pastel Shade in Storm Grey. And then we've got Szmal's Aquarius Grey. Let's take a look at these. I don't actually have a true black. I've never felt the need for one. So we've got these amazing granulating blacks from Szmal and Daniel Smith. The Aquarius black is quite new to me, but I think I'm going to like it in the same way that I really like using Daniel Smith's Hematite Genuine. It adds so much texture to paintings. And then we've got these two slightly more subtle super granulating paints, the Haze Black and the Shire Grey. Then the three Payne's Greys. They're all very different from each other. Though the Sennelier's Payne's Grey and the A Gallo's Payne's Grey use the same three pigments. The Daniel Smith's has got the ultramarine pigment PB29 in it, and which makes it more heavily granulating. Then we've got Sennelier's Neutral Tint and a couple of paler greys, which are more opaque with their white pigment. I also tried swatching out Szmal's Titanium White, but I'll add that to the black paper when I do the metallics next. I'm going to swatch out all my metallics now, which includes watercolours plus a couple of inks that I've got and gouache. Okay, so on this first line I've done the more strongly tinted golds, the quite rich coloured golds. So we've got Kuretake Gansai Tambi red gold, and then the Gansai Tambi yellow gold. I've chosen to do these swatches with artificial light, so hopefully it will pick up the shimmer a little bit better. In the middle here we've got Winsor & Newton's Designer's Gouache in gold. And then we've got C. Robertson & Co. Liquid Metal Ink in classic gold. And then Kuretake Gansai Tambi's blue gold. Okay, so the next row is the paler golds, the more muted golds. And the first one we've got is Schmincke's Aqua Bronze Rich Pale Gold, which comes in a bottle in powder form, which you mix with water, and it's got a beautiful sparkle to it. It's probably the nicest gold, I think, but when I show you them when they're dry, it does seem that it's quite loose on the paper. Then we've got Gansai Tambi's Champagne Gold, Gansai Tambi's Light Gold. Now both of these, when you re-wet them, they have a little bit of like white binder that sits on the surface of them. And even when the paint dries, if I show you my rough swatch that I made, you can see a little bit like almost like a white powderiness, which I don't know if that's like the binder kind of, yeah, you can see it more there. It's kind of smoky whiteness that kind of sits on the paint a little bit. And then this last one here is Talon's Ecoline Liquid Watercolour Gold, which doesn't have the sparkle of say the Schmincke's Aqua Bronze. It's more of a shimmer than a sparkle, but it is quite thick and it's quite nice to work with actually. Okay, now the next row are the whites and silvers. Okay, so I've got a couple of different things in this row. The first is Kuretake's Gansai Tambi White Gold. And then we've got Winsor & Newton's Designer Gouache in silver. Then this is the only white watercolour that I've got, the Roman Szmal Titanium White. And then just for comparison, I thought I was interested to see what the Winsor & Newton Designer's Gouache in permanent white was like, because the titanium white does re-wet really well and go quite creamy. I wonder if it was as thick, but it's not quite as opaque as the gouache. The gouache is, even with the gouache watered down quite a bit. And then one last colour. Okay, so the last one we've got here is Rembrandt's Copper. Which I've just got in a half pan. The other thing I wanted to do for comparison, the other golds which I use from time to time are Posca golds, so I'm just going to do a little swatch down here of those. So those are the 3 metallic Posca pens that I've got. Right, we'll let those dry and then come back to them. Okay, now that the paints are pretty much dry, let's take a closer look at them. None of the paints are truly opaque. If I tilt them at an angle like this, you can see better where the black paper is showing through. As you might expect, I'd say the Winsor & Newton gouache is the most opaque. So we've got the gold here, the silver here, and the white. And the Uni Posca are quite opaque. The Kuretake Gansai Tambi, they do pretty well though. I'm reasonably impressed with them. I sprayed the paints once, a few minutes before using them, but they re-wet really quite well once I'd done that. And I tried to use a similar amount of effort to lift up pigment and reapplied it 2 or 3 times, so I was putting on, well, as far as I can tell, a similar amount of paint. This copper's very pretty. Now the Schmincke Aqua Bronze Rich Pale Gold, I think is probably the prettiest gold here. But if I rub it, you can see I'm getting quite a bit of residue on my finger, and you can start to see the darkness of the paper showing through. I need to have a play around really to see if more water or less water makes a difference, or if I could perhaps use maybe like a pastel fixative spray. I'm not sure yet how I want to use that. So yeah, that was quite interesting for me to do that. I can show you now as well what I meant about the white binder kind of sitting on the surface. So you can see here, with more so with the Gansai Tambi, the light gold. Let me see if I can get it. There's kind of some white dustiness, almost like it's sitting on top of the gold surface. I think if I was painting small details, it probably won't matter too much, but if you've got a big wash, it's going to be quite noticeable. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks ever so much for watching my swatching videos. I really do hope that they will have been of use to somebody. Whenever I buy a watercolour paint, I always go online and look at quite a few videos to build up an idea in my head of how the paint operates and comparative colours. So thanks again, and see you next time. Bye.